Welcome to A Healthy Curiosity, the podcast that explores what it takes to be well in a busy world. With self-care strategies from Chinese medicine, functional medicine, Ayurveda, neuroscience, and beyond. I'm your host, Brody Welch, a licensed acupuncturist and transformation catalyst, here to support you on your journey of health, happiness, and personal evolution. Before we start the show, I wanted to let you know that I am opening my calendar for new one-on-one coaching clients this fall. I have room for just 3. I help my clients bridge the gap between what they know they need to be doing to take care of themselves and actually doing it. It's highly personalized stuff. We identify where you are now, how you want your life to feel, what your health goals are, what's in the way, and then we map out steps to get there, making really small, doable changes in the direction of better with the compassion and smart strategy that I can offer, having done this work for many years. I just got this wonderful gratitude email from a client that I've worked with for just a handful of sessions once a year in 2020 and 2021. And she wrote that the changes that she implemented in her daily life from our work together have endured the test of time and have made a much bigger impact than unsustainable short sprints. So if you are ready to do something different, let me know. Visit brodywelch.com, that's Brody with an IE and Welch with a CH, and head over to the coaching page or the level up page and read how other clients of mine have stopped living in stress and overwhelm, created time for themselves, dropped weight and outdated self-judgments, and have developed more self-compassion and feel at home in their bodies. You can do this. You are worth investing in, and I am here to help. Well, 3 of you at least. Learn more at brodywelch.com. And in the meantime, enjoy the rest of today's episode. Hello and welcome to today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today, we are going to talk very specifically about a topic that I have ironically resisted having on the show. Ironic because as an acupuncturist, I am obviously a firm believer in utilizing the intelligence of the body to send messages about how we can create balance and homeostasis, which is what the body is wanting all the time. This show is consistently about empowering you to embody self-respect through your daily actions, whether that is how much sleep you get or what you put into your body or your ability to be authentic in yourself. We talked about dietary therapy from a Chinese medicine perspective. We've talked about Qigong. We've had plenty of episodes on acupuncture, but we really haven't talked about acupressure. Acupressure, utilizing the same points as we do in acupuncture, but without the needles, right? Because the magic is not in the needle, it's in the point. It's in your body's intelligence. And one of the reasons that I have not covered this topic in a show that seems like a natural fit for it is that I really resist oversimplification. And when people talk about like, oh, acupressure is just acupuncture without the needles, I'm going to profoundly disagree for a number of reasons. They're not the same thing. In as much as playing a chord on the piano is different than playing a single note, something really special happens when points are used in combination. Furthermore, the questions that people often get is, well, what points do I use for headaches? And the answer is always going to be, that depends, right? Depends on what kind of headache you have. It depends on what your underlying imbalance is. And that is the beauty of Chinese medicine, is this differential diagnosis. The fact that 10 different people with headaches might come into the office and might get 10 different prescriptions. But the thing is that it's not actually 100% true that there are no points for headaches, right? There are points that we use to treat the root of the imbalance, as well as points that we use to treat the branch of the imbalance. And furthermore, once you know what your imbalance is, you absolutely can use points to take care of yourself. So with me today to unpack the exciting self-care possibilities that lie in putting our hands on our bodies is Katie Pedrick. Katie Pedrick is a licensed acupuncturist and herbalist with a thriving practice known as Vibe, located in Boston. She's also the co-founder of the Moxa Acupressure app. She began her career in cancer and pharmaceutical research with a master's in biotechnology from Harvard University, and then attuned her attention to Eastern medicine, earning her doctorate in acupuncture and oriental medicine from the Pacific College of Health Sciences. She's passionate about combining modern Western science and ancient Eastern wisdom and is on a mission to empower others to reach their most vibrant health through accessible wellness. Katie Pedrick, welcome to A Healthy Curiosity. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
So it sounds like you've had an interesting journey, which I'd love for you to speak to a bit. I'm curious about how you found your way to Chinese medicine from biotechnology and
Yeah.
then also kind of like how this app came into being.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've had a little bit of a winding journey, although maybe not quite as winding as it sounds on paper. So I guess some context is that I am from Vermont originally, and I grew up in a house that was very much about treating things with diet and lifestyle rather than using drugs when you can. But I also have always really strongly felt that I wanted to help people. And so I wanted to be a doctor from a really young age. And I went to college to go to medical school. And that was my plan. And so after I graduated from college, I started working in cancer research and sort of quickly found that I think a standard Western route was not for me, primarily because it felt to me like this whole system was not set up in a way that felt in line with my values, where people come in because they're sick and then we give them a drug. And it's very, very rare that doctors are talking to patients about their diet, about their lifestyle. And in things like cancer, of course, often you need drugs. It's not a no drug field, but there are still diet and lifestyle things that seemed to me important that were often left out and missing. And so I had this whole sort of quarter life crisis when I was working in research, where I wanted to be a doctor and I wanted to help people, but I really wanted, for the patients that I saw, I really wanted to be able to focus more on diet, lifestyle, herbal medicine, things that were more in line with sort of how I had grown up and how I had been treating myself and how my family had been promoting their own health for years and years. So I ended up working in pharmaceutical research sort of as an extension of the cancer research. And while I was there, only really became sort of more firmly entrenched in my beliefs that drugs very much have a place, but they are not always the right choice for everyone. And while I was having this whole sort of soul searching crisis, my parents, who are ballroom dancers at a very high level, my mom started to have some really debilitating foot pain. And she went to a podiatrist, she had surgery, she spent a year recovering from the surgery. At the end of a year, this pain was exactly the same. So they told her she would need another surgery. And instead, she decided to try acupuncture, sort of just as luck would have it. And she hobbled into the acupuncturist's office, barely able to walk. And she walked out completely fine in one session. It was amazing. It was like a miracle. And it was very transformational for me. And so I started looking at acupuncture school. And the more I learned about acupuncture and the more I learned about herbal medicine and sort of the whole paradigm of Chinese medicine, the more it felt like the absolute best fit for me. And it felt like everything had sort of synergistically come together. So I went to acupuncture school. It was the best decision I ever made and became an acupuncturist. But simultaneously, while I was in acupuncture school, I was also still working full-time in pharmaceutical research, which was a very exhausting choice. I think on a previous episode, you've talked about being yang addicted, and that's definitely where I was at. So I was still working full-time in pharmaceutical research, and I really love science and I really love Western medicine as well. And so sort of as a side passion, I started to learn more about biotechnology, and I started doing a master's in biotechnology sort of in parallel with the acupuncture degree. So ultimately, I wrote my thesis for Harvard on the use of herbal medicine in the treatment of anxiety and depression. So I sort of melded the two together to create something that was advancing sort of in both directions of that career. So by the time that I graduated from acupuncture school, I had, I think, maybe like 1 or 2 more credits left in my master's from Harvard. So I finished both of those at roughly the same time. And then I opened my acupuncture practice here in Boston and have been practicing ever since. But the way that the Moxa app came about was because during early COVID in 2020, we closed down, as did everybody, everywhere, full hard
Yes.
stop. But as I'm sure you probably also experienced, my patients still needed care. You can't just take away care because there's a pandemic and then everybody's magically fine and still need acupuncture, still need support. So what I did was try to come up with creative ways that I could still help my patients, but from a distance. So what we started doing was distance sessions where I would use not Zoom, a HIPAA compliant version of Zoom, but basically video conference software to do acupressure, to do lifestyle and diet coaching, to prescribe herbal medicine, and do a lot of what we were doing in the office, but digitally. And one of my patients at the time was graduating from business school, and he's really wonderful. He is also a huge proponent of acupuncture, of course. And he said, have you thought about how you might be able to make this more accessible and more affordable and expand your reach? Because a lot of acupuncturists weren't doing things like that. So there were a lot of patients who were completely without care. And so together we kind of came up with this idea to create an app to make what I was already doing much more scalable, because it didn't really exist at the time.
Yeah, that is so awesome. I want to speak to a few things that you just said. First of all, sister, yang addiction, if you were to look it up in the dictionary, is someone getting 2 degrees at once. Like,
absolutely.
That is pretty textbook. That is a pretty extreme version of yanging it out. And how awesome that like necessity was literally the mother of invention here in terms of being able to create something to enable people to simulate the kind of care that you were giving, like that you weren't able to give in the office. So hats off to you for really, and also just for actually going for it and decide, because obviously it's like you could have just changed your business model to just providing distance care to people as opposed to creating something where people could actually do it themselves.
Yeah, I think I'm really motivated by the idea that what we're creating at Moxa is something that can expand far beyond what I could personally do, because there's only so many patients that I can see myself. And unfortunately, I think we don't have enough acupuncturists in America. So there are only so many patients that every acupuncturist in America can see. And there are a lot of people who can't afford an acupuncturist, or it's not convenient for them or not possible with their schedule.
Right. Or they have a limit to that budget. And
absolutely.
So being able to fill in the gaps between appointments could be really, really important and pivotal, because whereas like your mom's story of having like limping in and walking out is obviously one end of the spectrum, right? And that usually acupuncture works best as a series. And that means, like the body, we need to steer it back towards balance, and that takes repetition, takes time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so just the idea of being able to support so many more people, it feels to me like I would be creating a world that's a place that I want to live in, where people can be healthier and take care of themselves in a more educated way.
I'm curious where the name Moxa came from, because for a lot of people listening to this show who have not been into an acupuncturist office, or even if you have, a lot of acupuncturists don't use Moxa, but Moxa is mugwort. Essentially, it's this herb that we burn near acupoints or on acupoints sometimes in order to stimulate them, because like back in the day, thousands of years ago, getting acupuncture would be like akin to surgery. It would be kind of a big deal, but stimulating, warming the point kind of add this yang energy to the point. And it can also do things that a needle can't. So anyway, so Moxa is this whole kind of like acumoxa therapy is sort of how the medicine of acupuncture used to be known. And a lot of acupuncturists don't do Moxa because it smells a little like weed. It's time consuming. Something's on fire. People are, it just seems like, okay, you're going to burn me. You're going to burn mugwort. Like it just makes us sound like, even more sort of witchy and less quote unquote professional than people might deem us to be, Anyway, so there's a lot of reasons that Moxa is less popular, I think. And Moxa like itself is different than acupressure. So what's up with the name?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Moxa was not the original name of the app. The original name of the app was called Point, which obviously is much more literal for acupressure, but it didn't work for quite a few reasons, primarily around like people being able to find us in the App Store and SEO, because if you just type in Point, a million things come up. It's such a common word. So we were thinking about what could be something that's more unique and more unusual, but still very on topic.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about various different words related to Chinese medicine and sort of my feelings around those words. And Also, I think words carry energetic meaning and the energetic meaning of those. And moxa is an herb that is widely used, as you were just talking about, maybe less so in a lot of clinics in America now, but it's widely used. It's warming and it's deeply tonifying and it's very supporting to people. And it's something that I'm not sure about your practice, but I will sometimes send people home with a moxa stick
Yeah,
if I don't have
absolutely.
time
Mm-hmm.
or don't have the opportunity to do it in the office. So it's already something that in my mind, I associate with helping to strengthen people, giving them an opportunity for self-care and sending them home with sort of this homework to do in between sessions.
I love that. And plus, people could actually use the Moxa app with a Moxa stick if they wanted to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely. And one of our goals with the app is, moving forward, we really want to, right now it's acupressure, diet, lifestyle advice, but we really want to have more nuance in Chinese medicine in there. So I absolutely could see in the future us having more sort of guided sessions where people would be using very specifically moxa. So it also seemed like something that we would grow into.
Oh, yeah. Very, very cool. Well, if we could back up for a second, I
Mm-hmm.
would love for you to just talk a little bit about like, convince people that acupressure is worth their time because maybe, because a lot of times people say, like, well, what point do I use for constipation? Right. And like
Yeah.
maybe you press on large intestine 4 and nothing happens, or there's what kind of an expectation should we have around doing acupressure on ourselves? And basically, apart from being able to kind of fill in the gaps between treatment and stimulating things maybe that our acupuncturists have told us are a good idea, like what kind of an investment do we need to make with acupressure in order for it to be worthwhile and like have a noticeable effect on our health?
Yeah, that's a great question. And as with many things with Chinese medicine, the answer of how much it takes to have a noticeable difference on your health can be different for everyone because there are some of us that are very energetically sensitive and some of us that are less energetically sensitive. And people who are less energetically sensitive, maybe it would take a little bit longer. I think that acupressure makes, in my perfect world, people are doing acupressure every day. And the reason for that is because we want to be sort of constantly tuning up your body and keeping your body in the best shape possible. And acupressure, in and of itself, I loved your analogy before about playing a single note on the piano versus a chord on the piano. It's a less complete picture and therefore just slightly less strong than having an acupuncture session with an actual acupuncturist in an office. And so doing things frequently helps you to get the cumulative benefit of those points in a way that just doing it, once a month maybe does not. So what I really like to encourage people to do is to make it part of their routine, either their routine when they're waking up in the morning or their routine when they're winding down to bed. I find that one of the things that I was most commonly recommending people use acupressure for is to help with their sleep because it can be really helpful in getting your body to neurologically calm down at the end of the day and sort of get your mind to stop racing so that you can settle into a deep sleep and sleep through the night.
It's so funny that you brought that up because when I was checking out the app, that's the one that I went to because that I think that's the one that like you can't force sleep. You can just
You
create the right
cannot.
conditions and to make it happen. And it is one of those things that in our young addicted world, people do have a tough time slowing down and relaxing and readying the body for sleep. So I love that you have a little routine on there that walks people through points for it. I think that's fabulous.
Absolutely. And it lets people take care of themselves beyond sort of what we were doing in the office, but just really facilitate them getting the maximum benefit from the things that we were doing in the office.
Let's talk about personalization because I
Mm-hmm.
think that is, for example, like you can Google like acupuncture points for sleep, for example, and maybe you'll get a few things that come up, but it's how can we get, obviously you and I know about root and branch, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like not all sleep is liver qi stagnation and not all sleep is heart fire and not all sleep is yin deficiency and and not all sleep is blood deficiency. So like how do you thread the needle between the fact that people need personalized points as opposed to just Googling the
Yeah.
symptom?
That's one of the things that's really unique in our app is that I felt really strongly that the way to make an app like this be actually useful to people would be us creating a way for them to get personalized points sort of outside of the scope of an office, ideally in line with what your acupuncturist is also recommending for you. So when you first download the app, you go through a series of questions that are very similar to if you were to see me in my clinic, what I would ask. And then based on your answers to those questions, we on the back end have a proprietary algorithm that uses essentially the way that I diagnose patients to identify what your primary imbalance is. And so when you come into the app initially, we already have an idea of your body, and whether it's liver qi stagnation or whether it's heart fire or what is going on that's keeping you from sleeping. And so right on the homepage of the app, it's something called My Personal Acupressure. And those points are designed specifically for your body and for the imbalance that we're seeing in your body. The way that you were talking to about root and branch treatments. And I don't recall if you explained this already, branch being like, this is just for a headache, root being, this is why you're getting a headache in the first place. Those points on the home screen are really much more of a root-based acupressure session that you can do every day. And then we have this other section of the app that has, sleep sessions that are more branch, like I just need to turn my mind off right now. So we kind of address both of those in the app. And I think that personalization is key to helping people actually feel better after using it consistently.
I think that is so brilliant.
Thank you.
I love that exists. Yeah. And so it's just in case I didn't explain that very well, like that, what we're always trying to do is look for root cause, which is this differential diagnosis that we make as acupuncturists. And that is something about like, what's going on with this person's individual ecosystem such that they're out of balance? Like, what does their ecosystem need more of or less of in order for them to not have basically the root that is developing into a whole bunch of diseased branches on their tree. And so you can keep cutting down the diseased branch, but if you're not dealing with the root, you're going to keep getting them, right? And it's sort of less efficient. So being able to treat at the level of root that's why I think that is so brilliant that you have that built in, that you can help people at home. And I imagine, of course, like it's both an art and a science in Chinese medicine, that not all practitioners are going to have the spot on exact same diagnosis, but usually there's a great deal of overlap, right there. And so it's probably close enough to what a given practitioner would suggest. And of course, there's traditions within traditions. It's certainly not all the same. Hashtag not all acupuncturists. But in any case, I love that you have that personalization in there. I at this point would love to say that I usually am not an affiliate for any guests' products, but I absolutely am an enthusiastic affiliate for Moxa. And if you are a listener of this show, you can use discount code Brody20 to get 20% off the paid features of the app. But there's a lot of it. The vast majority of the app is totally free and does not require a purchase, which is another fabulous thing that I think is super important about it, is that really democratizing the power of this medicine to everybody. I'd love to know your favorite feature of the app.
My favorite feature is, not to harp on what I just talked about, but really the personalization piece, because I think that's so unique. And I think that that's the piece I'm most proud of that we built. That's the piece that I think really has the power to, not to be hyperbolic, but to change lives, because we give you not just the points, but we also tell you what the imbalance is that we see, and we can give you diet and lifestyle suggestions based on that. I know that you've talked before about Chinese nutritional therapy, and we have suggestions on foods that you can eat and ways that you can be exercising more efficiently to help support your body. And I think that in America, we have a lot of sort of one size fits all approaches to health. I posted something on TikTok the other day about celery juice, and people just went crazy in the comments about how they love celery juice. And I'm completely wrong that it's not right for everybody. But I think that if
it were right for me, it's right for everyone.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, they were so upset. But I think that is such a misnomer, that we think that all bodies are the same, and that therefore the right exercise and the right diet and the right sleep patterns is right for everybody. And it's just not true. Or at least in my book, it's not true.
Of course, it's not true. Anyone with a body knows that.
Totally.
Another total pet peeve of mine is just, yes, exactly.
Exactly.
No one should be getting their nutritional or health advice from social media. Just
no, don't get your nutritional advice from me from on social media either. Please come into the clinic so we can talk about your body. Yeah.
I want to explicitly disclose that I am a proud affiliate for the Moxa app, which means if you want to go beyond the free version and upgrade to the premium, some of the proceeds will go back to supporting this very show. Use coupon code BRODIE20, BRODIE20, and you'll save 20% on an annual subscription that empowers you to take care of yourself with acupressure with points that address your particular imbalance. How cool is that? Visit getmoxa.com or look for Moxa, that's Moxa, in the Apple App Store. I would love to know, like, for people who are listening to this show, like, teach me how to do acupressure the right way. Like,
Yeah.
let's do some right now, assuming you're not driving. You can follow along at home. Teach me how to access an acupoints so with confidence, so that I know that I'm doing it right.
Sure, sure. Well, we could do some acupressure on an actual
Yeah,
acupoint right now. Is that what you're
let's do
saying?
it. Yeah,
Okay, great.
I think let's pick stomach 36 if that's okay, because
Perfect. Yeah.
it's one that I feel like it's pretty. Stomach 36 is the master point for the abdomen. It's fabulous for immunity, for digestion. Its name in Chinese is Zuzan Li, which translates as like essentially leg 3 miles. So the idea that like if you rub this point, it will give you the energy to go an extra 3 miles or whatever a Li was, and that idea, like, so who couldn't use better energy, better focus, better immunity, better digestion, feeling grounded? It's the earth point on an earth channel. So it's just really a rock solid, like this point will help you feel stronger and boost your chi, likely. So if we want to like run our hands up our shins, right, it's basically finding the bony part of the front of the shin, and in that muscle, essentially like the very front of the leg, if we run our fingers up, it'll kind of naturally veer off when we get about a hand's breadth below the knee. And as we veer off about one index finger's width off of the crest of the tibia, we will find stomach 36. And you can check your math by taking your hands and like placing all of your fingers together, placing that right below your kneecap. And you'll find a place that's kind of sore. And it doesn't so much matter, like with acupressure, obviously you're using a much bigger thing than a needle, like about 30 of which could fit inside one hypodermic. Whereas with our hands, obviously we've got more likely to hit the target. So now that we've located stomach 36, and you can do it on either side or both sides, teach us how to access the point with acupressure.
Yeah. So the way that I like to do acupressure is usually with my fingers, but you can use any sort of smooth tool that you have. You know, if you have a facial gua sha tool or if you have the rounded end of a pen, that's also totally fine. But what you want to do is go right to the point and press firmly onto that point. It's usually going to be about a 7 out of 10 on a pressure scale. It shouldn't be painful to you, but you should definitely be able to feel some firm pressure there. This point can sometimes be quite sore on people, especially if your digestion's off or if you're run down or extra tired, in which case the most important thing is to always listen to your body. So if that feels like too much pressure for you, feel free to back off just a little bit to a point that feels more comfortable. We don't ever want anything to be painful. And of course, if you have, a cut or a bruise directly there, don't feel like you need to press directly on it. But what we want to do is press down for about 30 seconds to a minute. And you can press firmly straight in, just perpendicular directly into your shin. You can also rub in little circles. We think of little circles that go clockwise as being tonifying or strengthening to the point. And then circles that go counterclockwise as being ones that, sort of more diffusing energy. So I typically recommend for a point like this that we might go clockwise or directly straight in. And that can be whatever feels good to you. It's normal to feel sort of the intense pressure from your finger, as well as maybe a dull aching sensation at that point. Sometimes people will begin to feel a movement along the channel, the energetic meridian that we're working on, which is the stomach channel, which goes all the way down the front side of your shin to your toes. So if you start to feel something that feels almost like water moving, that's fantastic. And that's exactly what we're looking for. If you don't feel that, that's also fine too. For some people, it takes a little bit longer to begin to feel sensations like that. But that's what we call a chi sensation, which I don't know if you've talked about before, but you can feel that just from rubbing with your fingers and not only when you use a needle on those points.
Yeah, and sometimes you can feel the after effects, right? That either like
Hmm.
warmth or tingling or something like that. Another way to think about the whether we want it to support this point or disperse this point is if you think about if you're like counterclockwise, what is that when it's with respect to the body, towards the midline or away from the midline, right?
Yes,
Towards
sorry,
the
that's a
midline
better way to put it.
is going to be like adding energy to, just away from the midline is going to be kind of like spreading it out. And so
Hmm.
since we typically are using this point to strengthen a deficiency, we're wanting to add as opposed to clear it out. Like we might want to disperse, but the point is that like that one of the magical things about the seemingly magical things about acupuncture and acupressure, that about acupoints in general, is that if you stimulate stomach 36, your body will either secrete more or less stomach acid depending on what you need. So it's like don't worry about overriding your body's wisdom. Like if
Hmm.
your intention is essentially like getting the body to pay attention to this particular area, and this particular area is like well, to go back to the keys analogy, but this time control alt delete versus control V, it's like different keys in different combinations are going to mean different things to the body. So if we're going to use stomach 36 and we're then going to couple it with spleen 6, we're going to suggest, hey, nourish the digestive system, as opposed to, that if we couple it with different points, we might be using it for example, just fatigue and tiredness. And anyway, but the idea that you're not going to screw yourself up most likely if you're listening to your body, and because the body has this, it has a self-regulating desire. And so like whatever it needs, if you're talking to this point, the body's smarter than you are.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. And that's actually a question that we get a lot in the app is, am I doing this right? Am I going
Yeah.
to make something worse? And I think it's important to note that, with most of these acupuncture points, it's similar to that, where what it's doing is bringing you back into balance. And so for the most part, you're not going to cause harm if you're rubbing maybe the wrong direction, because your body is more intuitively aware than you know.
Yeah. And I think that idea of, am I doing it right, is like that's the biggest reason that people don't meditate. It's the biggest reason that people might not do like a particular stretch or an exercise. And it's like a
Mhm.
totally understandable thing to worry about, especially because like, yeah, there are years of schooling that you could go to, and there's so many
Mhm.
refinements. But at the same time, being able to just take a small step in the direction of better is a lot of times more important than the refinements that can come with practice, right? So I would encourage people to think about acupressure or self massage. It's like you don't have to be the world's best foam roller or the world's best, or in order to like to roll something out or to make contact with your body. And with acupressure, it's like we're contacting not only like muscle insertion and trigger points, but we're contacting these little portals of consciousness that have very specific messages.
Yeah.
Katie, it has been such a pleasure talking with you. I'd love for you to let people know how they can get this app so that they can start on this acupressure journey if that's something that they're so inclined.
Yeah, absolutely. We are in the iOS App Store. Right now, we're only on Apple, but we hope to be on Android in maybe the next year. That's probably the number one request that we get. So you can search the App Store for Moxa, Moxa, and we are the Moxa Acupressure app that should appear right there.
Fantastic. Well, I'm really excited that you've done this work. I'm really excited to share it. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and have this conversation with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful being here.
Thanks for listening today. To check out the show notes, get on my email list, or drop me a line, head to brodywelch.com. That's Brody with an IE and Welch with a CH. I'd love to hear from you. If you learned something new or feel inspired to try something different in your life, I'd love for you to pay it forward by sharing this episode with a friend who you think could also benefit, and give them a reason to listen. You'll be helping to create a world where we encourage each other to embody self-respect. Till next time, be good to yourself.